You know, we're getting awfully close to that point where every series is a 2-0 and we end up playing the same amount of games in summer that we did in spring, and it ultimately makes no difference in the schedule change. I still would take best of threes over best of ones any day, though. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to The Pit. 4 weeks of the LCS regular season are down. We've got 3 more to go. And standings are pretty clear-cut, if we're being honest. If you're not already subscribed to this channel, be sure to click the button down below, drop a like on the video, and we'll get back to our regularly scheduled programming. For all the crap that we talked on Europe being a 1-team region, we are very much like a 3-team region at this point. Maybe 4. And it's been a point of conversation across multiple different podcasts, so let's get into the series from this past weekend that helps solidify that. Starting off, your defending champions and Team Liquid took on Dignitas in a series that, yeah, TL probably should have won a little bit more comfortably than they did after dropping a game in Game 2 to Dig and actually being behind in Game 3 as well. Dig looked pretty good, which is a result of them getting the break, getting to prep a little bit more, and I did get the chance to talk to Zven, despite the loss, on why things looked a little bit different this time around.
Yeah, fine. Just need to know if I should sit up straight or not.
Nah, I mean, you can slouch. I don't really give a shit at the end of the day. It's whatever you feel comfortable with. That's all that matters.
No. It's all good.
So, close series. I would argue probably the closest that anybody has played Team Liquid so far this year. What were your thoughts walking out of it, especially after you guys kind of had an early lead in Game 3?
I mean, it sounds like I'm blaming my teammates here, but after the game, we walked into the room, and the first thing I heard was just all my teammates said, I played so bad, I'm sorry. And I was like, I don't actually see what happened topside. I just know we had a big lead off of the tri-push fight we had in like 3.5 minutes. We killed both Ashe and Renata, and we got a Mark and Kindred. I thought it was kind of GG at that point. I felt like if Ezreal gets ahead of the lane bully, Ashe, you kind of get tri-push faster. You're stronger at every point of the game at that point, and then you just win, right? I got a solo kill on lane as well, and I thought the game was really good when I had Triforce before he had his static shiv. So I don't even know what happened. I haven't watched the game yet, but I think the last game, my team said they played bad. I think I played kind of bad in the first game myself. So I think we had a good series today. We had some good drafts. I think Game 2, our draft was a lot better than theirs. So some good progress from us, but TL's a good team at the end of the day. So yeah, fine with the result today.
There were a lot of people actually on social media saying that Game 1 and Game 2 draft, they did not like from you guys. What, like, to explain to those people, what would you say is like why you had a draft advantage in Game 2 versus people's perception of it being weak?
Well, it's like the enemy team only has one range champ. Well, if you count Varus as a range champ when he's playing on hit, it's kind of like fake, right?
Yeah.
He's low ranged. So they have 6 only. But then they have Renekton, Viego, and Leona. And we have Braum, Ivern, and 280 carries. So our comp just counts their statistically, right? Because Leona goes in, Renekton goes in, Viego goes in, but we have Ivern shields and Braum and a lot of mobility. Like I have my flash, my cleanse, everything, just as jump. It's very hard for them to get a reset on us and very easy for us to not die. But then when they go in, they can't get out again. They're gonna get Braum tagged, Ivern queued, Daisy's there, slows, they can't move, right? So I think they just can't win that game unless they win lane, which they didn't do. So yeah, I think our comp is just both easier to play, it outscales them, and comp counters them stylistically. Yeah.
I mean, that's fair enough. You guys had 3 weeks, give or take, to prep for this match. But I mean, even looking just beyond like the specific series, how did the break go? Like, I know you talked about it briefly on Pros, but I'm not sure when that was filmed exactly. So like,
Last week. So
okay, so there was still another week after that. How was the break in its totality? How do you think it benefited you guys versus where you were prior to it?
I do think that it benefits us more than like TL, but not by a lot, because TL also went to the World Cup thing, right? And they got to play against better teams than they normally do. So while they spent some time like traveling and being jet lagged, they also played games on stage that we didn't, and they played scrims. I think I actually don't know, and stage games against better teams than us. So they learned something, but they spent a couple of days not playing while we had time to rest and also play more scrims. So I don't think it's too big of an advantage for anyone. But what I do think is that we were struggling. Our last match before this was against FlyQuest, and we got stomped. And we had bad drafts and bad play, and we needed time to like recover. We had no momentum at all, right? So like, even if we're playing against anyone else, it would also be good for us regardless, right? Because we had a really bad series with FlyQuest. So I think the biggest thing is that we had time to figure our shit out. Because against FlyQuest, we played bad and had bad drafts, and then the result was opposite, losing 20 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Whereas today, I think we had okay drafts, decent prep, and we played a lot better than we usually do. So I'm happy with the result overall.
I mean, despite your guys' record, I mean, people will look at it from the outside and be like, "Oh, you're 1-3, like not great." But your next 3 opponents are NRG, Immortals, and who else? Who am I? Forget. It's the other team. That's Shopify. Yeah. So you guys are still like you are in a position now to build a lot of momentum going into playoffs. Like, is that something that like? I'm not saying that you can entirely write off the record prior to this point, but is like it allows you to not worry about it as much, right?
Yeah, well, the way I see it is like I don't know who we're playing against next and stuff like that, but we played against the top 3 teams already: Fly, C9, and what's the face, Team Liquid today. And sure, we lost all 3 series, but we did well against C9 in the first series of the split, and we did well against TL today, I think. So us being 1-3 with this schedule isn't that bad. It's like it sounds like cope, which it probably is, but it's a pretty good record, I think, given that we play against all the best teams in the league so far, and our opponents next probably have not. So you only have to be better than 2 of Energy, HRD, Shopify, and IMT to make playoffs, right?
Yeah.
Which is the goal right now. We don't really care about the placement too much. We're a new team and all that, so it's...
And everybody gets double elimination now, so it's not like it really is.
Yeah, exactly. It's not that big of a deal to be higher seeded. Obviously, you want to avoid the top three, right, if you can. But I feel good about our team at the moment. Our vibes are also very, very good. Even when we're losing the first game super hard, the lane swap was terrible. I felt really comfortable in the game. We actually made some good plays come back in that game too, despite how fucked the game was.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
This is also the final time, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you guys are going to be playing out of the closet. Like, I think this is the final time all year because Valorant's now done, so you guys should be on the main stage. Like, what's the biggest difference between the two? Because, like, obviously from an outside perspective, it seems way less for us. But like, is it a tangible difference of being able to play in front of people, regardless of whether the stadium's filled or the arena's filled or not?
I think for me, I don't care about the people difference. Obviously, it's nice to have fans in the studio and all that. It's a good atmosphere, it's good vibes, and I like that feeling, the crowd. But the biggest difference is that the small room is very, very quiet and very, very cold. So, like, in the first game, normally I play with a hoodie on, but on the main stage, it gets kind of hot. So today I took off my hoodie and played with the jersey only. And then I didn't realize we were in the gulag or the closet or whatever you want to call it. And I was like, oh shit, it's really fucking cold today. And then I had to use like hand warmers on my fucking arms like this, because it was so fucking cold in there. Like my actually bones were like freezing, like when you can't really walk correctly. But
you gotta stretch out the knees because the joints get a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't want to like make like a cold hands excuse because that wasn't why we lost. I think I played fine mechanically as well, even with the cold hands. But I did feel it a bit in the first couple games that it was really fucking cold in there. But honestly, it's fine. Also, one slight thing is like fans won't relate, but there's white noise on the main stage. That's kind of loud, like in your ears to avoid you being able to hear the crowd or the casters or whatever. But in the closet, there's no fans and there's no casters or anything, no noise at all, right? So the white noise is lowered by a lot, which kind of makes you focus better. I honestly think so. It's kind of like gives you more of like a scrim vibe, makes you more comfortable, I feel like. While with loud white noise, people tend to yell more in the game. They've been more aggressive comms, I suppose, like louder voice, more assertive. While when you're playing with low white noise, it's more like a, relaxed gaming versus this, type shit. But yeah, I think you know what I mean.
I got the privilege of doing one of the play tests back in Jersey whenever they had the full setup there. Every fan should get to experience that once in their life of like you step up on and it just like the noise goes out from around you. It is the weirdest feeling.
Yeah, it's very loud on the finals for sure because there's more people, right? So they gotta make sure you can't hear like they're on Baron type shit. So yeah.
I got the notice from Riot that you got to dip out. So thank you so much for your time, man. I really appreciate it.
I see a guy right now. It was like, come on.
Yep. Have a go, man. See ya.
All right, peace.
So they're drafting better and they're playing better, but unfortunately they weren't able to get the win, which means that their standings are still not the best. But they do have an easier schedule upcoming. Zven noted that, and yeah, it still looks pretty good. But on the flip side, Team Liquid still undefeated. entirely. And I got the chance to talk to Team Liquid's mid laner, APA, and ask him, did Esports World Cup affect any of this?
Oh, still undefeated. It's, good,
I
right?
guess so. I mean, we have 2 losers, but
I mean,
I guess undefeated.
if you win every series, does any game loss actually matter?
I think so, yeah.
I mean, yeah, in the grand scheme, yeah, obviously it does. But walking through that series, it looked like, at least for a little bit there in game 3, that it might swing the other way, but you guys brought it back in the big game pretty well.
I think overall we're not playing up to our level. Like we're like specifically me, I'm a little bit rushed in some of my plays. I think across the board we're like making just dumb mistakes that if we look at like in review, we'll be like, yeah, I don't know what we're doing here. Like I think one for me is like game 2, like 13, 14, 15 minutes somewhere around there where I TP top, and then I get nothing out of TP. It's just like a bad TP, and then Jensen ends up taking bot turret and gets like a lot of gold out of that. I imagine he even went ahead of me in gold. So there's like dumb mistakes like that, or like we're losing mid 3-3 when we go early 1-1. When I was winning mid pretty hard. So it's just a lot of mistakes where I'm sure we're just like I mean we're just kind of upset about that. And then yeah, I mean overall in the series I don't think we played too well, but I think we still played okay enough to win.
The point that everybody wound up making is you guys came back from EWC, 38 hours of flights over the course of however many days. Did that weigh on you guys, or was this just like, hey, it's a bad day, shit happens, not on the same page?
I don't think it's because of EWC, to be honest. I think just the meta has shifted a little bit from our perspective, and then we're just I think just struggling a little bit to adapt to the meta. So yeah, I don't think it's because of EWC at all. Like I wasn't really jet lagged coming back to America. I was really jet lagged going there, but coming back, I was within like a day or two, I was solid. And then I think just overall, it's just been we're playing a bit worse individually, and then like just meta swap. So we're like the game has changed, so we have to change our team identity.
Yeah.
And just yeah.
How was your like full experience over there? Like, one thing that I guess like none of us really know is like, did you guys get the chance to scrim many of the teams over there at all? Like, was the condensed schedule like, did that not allow for it at all? Like, what was it like over there for that week?
We had or we scrimmed twice. We scrim a set the second night, but pretty much like the first day we got there. We scrimmed versus Top Esports, and then we had a set the next day versus G2. And we had opportunities to scrim, like either on game day or on like after we lost versus T1 the 2 days after, but we chose not to. So like I'm sure like G2 for example was scrimming. We had a little bit of chance to scrim, but I think like the first set, the Top Esports set was pretty much just like a scrim set to stay awake. Like I don't know if you watched the squad where Jan was literally talking about how he's like falling asleep in his chair.
I haven't had the
'Cause
chance to yet. That's on my list after the IMT series is done to finally watch through.
Yeah, because obviously it's a 10-hour time difference, and we spend like 20 hours on the plane getting there, so we're severely jet lagged. And then we played like super late at night.
Yeah.
We would play at like I think our series started at like 11 p.m.
I was gonna say because it was I'm East Coast. It was a phenomenal time zone for us to watch, and it was really weird. It's like you wouldn't expect that for an event over there for it to be good for us to watch.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, we scrimmed a little bit. We could have scrimmed more. I think we just as a team like we didn't think our condition was the best to get the most from scrim, so we would rather just like take deep sleeps and like sleep as much as we can to battle jet lag.
You wrestled in high school, right?
Yes.
To what level? Like, because obviously, like, if somebody says they played a sport in high school, like, there's very different degrees on whether you just did it casually or like, how far did you go in terms of like wrestling?
I wrestled for 12 years.
Oh,
from
so
the time
you
I was like
good.
4 to like 16 or 17, and then my high school senior year was COVID year.
Oh,
So wrestling
wrestling.
didn't exist that year, and then I sustained like other injuries throughout high school. Like I broke my wrist, I broke my ankle. But I wasn't insane, but I was like above average.
All right. One of the things that I know from friends that wrestled in high school, that might have been one of the grossest things I've ever seen is like the spittle that you guys have to do to make weight, of like carrying a bottle around, like spitting into it, trying to like drop weight to get to that certain
Yeah,
threshold.
I've seen everything around that.
Is there anything like that that you do to prep for a series in League? Like, is there any equivalent at all of like trying to make weight or trying to do something like that, like the extremes that people go to?
Not really, to be honest with you. Like, so I've known friends who are like really, really, really close to like getting to a certain weight class, and they'll just like extremely cut. Like they won't eat for like 3 days, and then they won't be drinking water. They'll like do cardio in sweatpants for like 5 hours. Like they'll do it like they'll go extreme.
Yep.
But there's nothing really that extreme to prep for League. Like I watch VODs and like we do like prep on like Digging Toss, for example, today, or like T1 or like just whoever. But I've never gone to the point where I'm like fatigued out from like prepping or something.
There's got to be something at some point that will come into League of Legends. Like you look at like Michael Phelps, he did like the cupping on his back, and he'd have like the suction marks. You have like the spittle making weight in wrestling. Is like there's got to be something in League that somebody does that's so off the wall to prep for a series that's just wild.
At least personally, not me. I think I'm just like very normal when it comes to game day. But yeah, maybe someone does something random.
All right. In terms of standings, you guys are still undefeated. Cloud9, the only other undefeated team. I think you guys would play them in 2 weeks, correct? Or is it next week?
Week 6.
Week 6. Okay, so yeah, 2 weeks from now. Final thoughts as I got a 1-minute warning. Where do you guys think you're headed over the next 3 weeks? How do you think you're gonna do?
I think we're in a little bit of a slump right now, just adjusting to like everything, like I said a little bit before. But I think with how much we care as a team, we'll get over this hopefully within this week. So I think we'll just continue to grow and improve as a team in NA.
Gotcha. Thank you so much, man. Have a great rest of your afternoon. Enjoy the rest of the week.
Thank you. You too.
See you.
We could pretty much blaze through the rest of the series that were played this past weekend. FlyQuest put the beat down on Immortals Progressive. It honestly wasn't all that close. Immortals had a few moments here or there where they might have been able to do something. By a few moments, I mean a few seconds. 100 Thieves, we got our asses handed to us by Cloud9. It wasn't even close. Like Cloud9 just beat us from like minute 2 in these games on. They got leads in lane, and we just took every fight that we could and lost every fight that we could. There was like one fight that we won the entire time, which I think was like at like 25 minutes in game 1 around Baron when we were already 10k gold down, but it made no difference whatsoever. We just lost a little bit slower. And the longest series of the weekend, despite being a 2-0, was NRG beating Shopify. It looked like Shopify in game 2 might have been able to take it in game 1. NRG wasn't able to close it out. They clearly lacked confidence, as Palafox even noted on Hotline League on Monday. But at the end of the day, NRG still picked up the win, moves to 2-2 in the standings, and is pretty well positioned. But it wasn't pretty. For Shopify, yes, Boogie came back in and gave them at least a little bit of a spark, made them look a little bit better, but it was ultimately the same result. Didn't change much. So this now means that 8 of our last 9 series in the LCS were all 2-0s. And I've seen some people, notably Call and Hotline League, as well as some sentiment on Twitter and talking to some people as well, like, yeah, maybe best of 3s wasn't the best change, and I still firmly disagree. What the narrative, I think, should be around all this is, yes, best of 3s obviously make sure that the better teams get more of a chance to close out their series, and so far they haven't been chucking any game away, unlike in best of 1s where they would occasionally lose a one-off. Ultimately, this means that our top end is getting better, and the schedule, as it's been made for the league so far, has not really had many of the top teams play against each other yet. You had like that Dignitas FlyQuest series before the break that might be hype. You had week 1 of FlyQuest versus Team Liquid, but we have yet to see the one that everybody wants to see, which is Team Liquid versus Cloud9. We have have 2 weeks until we get to that point, so we're still building there. Cloud9 versus NRG this upcoming weekend could potentially be good if NRG bounces back a little bit, but Cloud9 probably will still beat them. FlyQuest still has to play Cloud9, and then 100 Thieves kind of plays like bottom tier teams, but you basically, the final 2 weeks of the season are going to have a lot more matches of teams that are closer to each other in the standings. We got kind of all the bad games or bad series out of the way in the middle, and then at the end, it's going to ramp up pretty quick. You're going to have 2 straight weekends of just back-to-back, hopefully banger series with games that mean a lot for each and every team. For Shopify, they can't afford to like lose any more at all. For 100 Thieves, you don't want to keep losing. For Team Liquid, can they go undefeated? C9, can they go undefeated? Look, I get early on that best of threes might not seem like it's working, and single round robin obviously doesn't help that. I'm not disputing that point. In a perfect world, it'd be double round robin best of threes, and we'd all be happy and walk out perfectly fine. But there's no world where you can tell me that you'd rather have best of ones back than what we've seen in best of threes, and with the best yet to come still. I'm sorry, but I don't think that opinion is like, you gotta give it a full split before you make the judgment call on the schedule. You can't make that decision halfway through. Other major news that would impact the LCS, and I will have a separate video on this probably like 2 weeks from now-ish. I had a plan that I was actually gonna make a whole video about crap talk, which if you notice the interviews in today's video were chopped up a little bit. It's because I'm saving portions of those for a different video that I want to make entirely. But bigger news that affects North America is the fact that the International Olympic Committee has approved that esports will now officially be part of the Olympics. It sounds like it's going to be its own separate event. League of Legends likely will be included if you believe Slasher, who typically has insider knowledge on this stuff. No FPS games, so no Valorant, no CS, no Call of Duty, but League of Legends could be part of this, which brings up an interesting question of like, what teams would we send for the US, for Canada? And I'm gonna make a whole video that will build out individual rosters for each region, and I think you'll find it pretty interesting. There's also a lot of general distrust around like the International Olympic Committee and traditional sports and their role. Me and Travis talked about it on Twitter a little bit, and I just kind of want to save all those thoughts for it. This video will already be longer with the interviews as is. And the final thing before we get into next week's schedule is that thank you to everybody that came out to this past weekend's New York City Watch Party. We had about 15 people, I think, give or take. Smaller turnout, but considering that Tarek and Valorant were having an event here in the city as well at Pier 17, literally right down the block, I was happy with the turnout that we got. They had, I'm guessing, well over like 300 people at that event from what it looked like. I don't know the final number, but it looked like they had a pretty packed house. To which I would make the plea for Riot, if you can do that for VCT Finals, we could definitely do it for LCS, and you know that. So why not work together and put it on an event like that? I know I've already got a location booked for this finals, but let's talk now for next year. Let's work together. Let's have an event like that. You know I Will Dominate is from New York City, right? Like, what if he co-streamed from New York? I'm just saying. I don't know if he wants to come back here, but anyways, on to the next week's schedule. Cloud9 versus NRG might shape up to actually be a pretty decent series. If we took anything away from the 100 Thieves one, it's that you got to be able to contest Cloud9 early on. You can't let them get 4 to 5K leads in lane, because that's kind of how they've won last year, but that was also how NRG was able to counter them last year. NRG was like one of the few teams that was able to make sure that they didn't get these obnoxious leads that they were getting on everybody else and just close out the game. This would require a pretty massive step up from both Palafox, FBI, and Dokla to be able to compete. Thanatos looks like he is scaling up very, very well. Blabber is back in prime form. C9 still has some macro woes, but you don't really see them against smaller, like lesser, not good teams. And this C9 bot lane, man, learn from 100 Thieves. Don't leave Zeri open. Just don't do it. Don't give Berserker the chance to play it. It's, oh god. The second series of Saturday will be Shopify versus Dignitas. I'm expecting Dig to actually 2-0 here. If we can take anything good away from Dig after the TL series, it should be that, yeah, their team works pretty good, and they can get some leads in lane. So yeah, they should be able to put away Shopify pretty easy. I'll be honest, like, Shopify has regressed pretty bad from spring, and I haven't seen anything that would convince me that they'll be able to beat Dignitas or even take a game yet. I think Dig's a level above NRG, and they couldn't even beat NRG on a bad day. So yeah, don't have faith in that one. On Sunday, we kick off with 100 Thieves versus FlyQuest, and yeah, once again, FlyQuest probably should win this 2-0, given the 0-4 record that 100 Thieves has against top teams now. I'm not convinced it's going to get there. Quid looked pretty good, and Quid could probably do a little bit against Jensen this time around. I have a feeling that he'll actually be okay, but Sniper against Flippo has never historically had a good matchup into him. He just has not played it well. If we're talking River versus Inspired when it comes to AP scaling junglers, I take Inspired every time. And bot lane, Oh God. Oh boy. The 100 Thieves bot lane had a rough weekend this past time. Maybe they could turn it around. Maybe A-Level will play a little bit better, and Meech will get to do some damage. But Masu and Busio have been looking better. And better and better. Yeah, no, this is gonna. I hate to pick against 100 Thieves, but like, yeah, this ain't gonna be pretty. And finally, you got Team Liquid versus Immortals Progressive. Can Team Liquid bounce back from honestly what was a little bit shakier form than what you would expect from the team that nearly beat T1 and beat Fnatic? But hey, they are now officially the best team in the West, all things considered, because Fnatic beat G2. Therefore meaning that the team that beat Fnatic is the best team in the West, which means the Team Liquid is the best team in the West, which means they're also going to 2-0 Immortals. I'm not even giving Immortals a game. It's not even going to be close. But that's going to be it for me here on the Pit. A little bit shorter week. I think, honestly, like, this is the final week that we kind of got to get through, like, the lopsided matches, and then we get to the ones that are going to be, like, really close. I think we're going to start to see 2-1s maybe towards the end. Probably not this week. Definitely next week. I think we start seeing some more 2-1s. We see some closer series that will eventually build up in the playoffs. But let me know your thoughts. Which series do you think is going to be the best from this upcoming weekend? And which team do you think has upset potential? Who can turn around the ship that is sinking out of all the bottom teams? I'm praying it's 100 Thieves. But God only knows. See you next week.